You've probably heard the buzz, right? Especially in athletic circles or the biohacking community, there's this compound people are talking about with almost miraculous healing claims. It's called BPC 157, and it's got a nickname that's, well, pretty bold: the body protection compound. So let's dive in and see what the science actually says.
So, what's all the hype about? I mean, the core idea sounds almost too good to be true. A single compound that can supposedly help heal everything from a torn muscle to an inflamed gut, all the way to damaged nerves? Honestly, it sounds like something straight out of a sci fi movie. So, what's the real story here? Let's break down what we actually know. All right, first things first, what is BPC 157? Well, it's a synthetic piece of a protein, a peptide, that was first discovered way back in the 90s. And get this, it was originally found in human gastric juice. Yep, our own stomach acid. It's just a little chain of 15 amino acids, but that nickname, body protection compound, tells you everything you need to know about the huge hopes researchers had for it early on.
Now, what makes this little peptide so special? See, most peptides are incredibly fragile. You swallow them, and stomach acid just shreds them apart almost instantly. But BPC 157, it's a whole different beast. It has this unique structure that acts kind of like a suit of armor, making it ridiculously tough. It can actually survive in the stomach for over 24 hours. And that's a total game changer, because it means it could potentially work as a simple pill, which is almost unheard of for peptides.
Okay, so how on earth could one little compound do so many different things? Well, the research suggests it's not just doing one thing. It's more like it's flipping a master switch for your body's own repair systems, influencing a bunch of key processes all at the same time. First up, it rebuilds. BP 157 kicks off something called angiogenesis, which is just a fancy word for building brand new blood vessels. Think of it like this. When you have an injury, BP 157 starts building new highways to deliver supplies. At the same time, it activates a pathway that acts like a GPS for your body's repair cells, guiding them right to the damage so they can get to work. Next, it plays defense. You can think of it as a personal bodyguard for your cells. It shields them from damage. And it's a potent anti-inflammatory, telling the body to cool it with some of those signals that cause swelling and pain. On top of all that, it helps fight oxidative stress, that cellular rust that contributes to damage and aging. And finally, it's a regulator. It helps fine-tune some of the body's most critical systems. It has a big effect on the nitric oxide system, which is super important for healthy blood flow. And, fascinatingly, it seems to help balance out key neurotransmitters in the brain, like serotonin and dopamine, which might explain why some people report effects on their mood and focus. With mechanisms like that, you'd expect to see some pretty impressive results, right? Well, this is where the story goes from interesting to wow. The animal research is what got everyone so incredibly excited in the first place. Just look at this. This is from one of the most famous animal studies. Researchers literally cut the Achilles tendons of rats clean through. In the group that got BPC 157, the tendons healed. And I don't mean they just scarred over. They healed to be strong, functional tendons again. That's just a remarkable outcome. And that wasn't just a one-off, a lucky shot. The results have been shockingly consistent across the board. This quote from a major scientific review really sums it up. It says that in virtually every injury model tested, BPC 157 has shown consistently positive and rapid healing outcomes. I mean, that's about as strong an endorsement as you can get from scientists. And the list just keeps going. In animal studies, it made nasty stomach ulcers just disappear. It helped rats get motor function back after devastating spinal cord injuries. It protected the liver from damage, healed up complicated intestinal wounds, and sped up the mending of skin burns and broken bones. The sheer breadth of what it can do in these models is just mind-blowing. All right, and this is the big but, all of that amazing stuff, it was in rats and other lab animals. So what happens when we ask the multi-million-dollar question, what about people? This is where the story takes a sharp turn and gets a whole lot more complicated. So here it is, the only question that really matters for us. The lab results are a 10 out of 10, absolutely stunning. But does any of that incredible potential actually translate to humans? Because a promising compound isn't a medicine until it's proven in people. So when we go looking for the human data, well, it gets pretty thin pretty fast. There was a study on ulcerative colitis that apparently went well, but the full results were never actually published for other scientists to review.
Same thing for an early MS trial. It showed the compound was safe, but the results on whether it actually worked? Never published. The thing you hear about most is a tiny report on 12 people with knee pain, where most of them felt better, but that was a really small, uncontrolled study, far from solid proof. Which brings us right here to the heart of the problem. If we look for the gold standard of medical proof, the big placebo-controlled, peer-reviewed clinical trials that really show something works in humans, the number of those that have been published for BPC 157 is exactly this: 0. A big, fat 0. This is the massive evidence gap in the BPC 157 story. And because of that huge evidence gap, we absolutely have to talk about the fine print. We have to talk about the potential risks and all the gray areas surrounding this compound. Now, the main worries are theoretical, but they're serious. Here's the paradox. The very thing that makes BPC 157 such a powerful healer, its ability to build new blood vessels, could also be its biggest weakness. What if someone has a tiny, undiagnosed tumor? Could this stuff help it grow by giving it a fresh blood supply? What if its ability to make cells move around could also help cancer cells spread? We just don't have the answers. And without long-term studies, the effects of taking this for months or years are a complete mystery. And that brings us to its legal status. To be crystal clear, BPC 157 is not an approved drug. It's not approved by the FDA or anyone else for any medical use. It lives in this weird gray market where it's sold online as a research chemical, which often comes with a warning not for human consumption. That means zero oversight on what you're actually getting, no guarantees on purity, dosage, or safety. So in the end, we're left with this huge, fascinating question. Is BPC 177 a genuine breakthrough for the future of healing, just waiting for someone to fund the big, expensive trials to prove it? Or is it one of those countless amazing discoveries that shines bright in the lab, but just can't make that final, crucial leap into proven human medicine? Right now, it's a powerful story of potential, but one that's shattered by a serious lack of proof.